Hi, I'm Steve Friedman with Rockstar Excel. Today I'm going to show you how to make a goal tracker in Excel. Yesterday my wife asked for help tracking her goal to walk 500 miles this year, and I'm sorry if you now have that Proclaimer song stuck in your head. I put something together for her which you can easily adapt for any numerical goal. Saving money, reading books, time spent exercising or on a project, cutting calories, losing weight, sending sales pitches, etc. Let's start by calling this tab Summary and putting some basic information on it. We're going to start in column B. You'll see why in a minute. I'll call this Goal Tracker and list what I'm tracking, which in this case is miles. Then the amount of the goal or target, and then what's the start date and the end date. And then I put today's date. Here we'll use the today formula, which is equals today, open parentheses, close parenthesis. This way the spreadsheet will automatically update to always have the current date. Now we're going to skip a few rows and then list the months that this spreadsheet will cover. You can just type the first 2 months and then highlight them and click and drag on this little green box in the corner here, which is called the fill handle, and Excel will automatically complete the rest of the series for you. Now in column A, next to the months, we're going to add the formula equals month parentheses, and then we're going to select the cell with the month in it, which is B14, close parentheses, ampersand, quote, dash, quote, ampersand, and then we're going to say year, parenthesis, and then B14 again, close parentheses. So here it says 1-2023, and we'll just double click on the fill handle to fill this down for each month. This is putting the month and year together as text, and you'll see why we're doing that in just a second. Now let's create another tab that we're going to call Daily Input. In column B, we're going to list each individual date covered by the tracker. So we're going to say equals here, and then go over to the Summary tab and select the start date, and you say enter. And then below that, we're going to say equals B2 plus 1, and then select this cell here in B3, and scroll down for as many rows as we need. Then hold down Shift and click, and then hit Control D. And that's going to fill this formula down. It's okay if you have a few extra or you're a few short, you can just add or delete a few to fix it. So now let's go back to the Summary tab and let's copy this month and year formula. And then we're going to go back here and scroll back up to the top. And then in column A, put this formula here. And then double click to fill that down. Before we continue, let's add some data into the daily input section so we can make sure our formulas are working as we enter them. If the period covered by your spreadsheet hasn't started yet, or you're only a few days into it, go to this today formula and add 100 or so to it to trick the spreadsheet into thinking you're in the future so you can test it out. Since this example already has a month and a half worth of data in it, I'm going to undo this. If you are adding 100 to your today formula here to test it, remember to change that back before using the spreadsheet for real. Now in the Summary tab, we're going to add a column for total next to the months. And we're going to get the totals using a SUMIF formula. Doing a SUMIF by month can be tricky because if you just use the month formula, Excel will treat, for example, February 2023 and February 2024 as the same. That's why we have this helper column here that's combining the month and year. So we say equals SUMIF parentheses, and then go to the Daily Input tab and select column A here, and then a comma. Then come back to the Summary tab, and we're going to select here this month and year, the 1-2023, comma, and then go back to the Daily Input tab and then select column C with the miles in it, and then close parentheses. And now let's fill this formula down, and now it's totaling up the miles by month. Now we can hide column A on both spreadsheets because we won't be looking at them anymore. Now let's find out our daily average for each month. That will just be the total for the month divided by the number of days in the month. But the number of days is different for each month. You could just manually enter that into each formula, but hard-coding numbers into formulas is a bad idea. How do we figure out how many days are in each month using a formula instead? We can do that by combining the day function with the EO month function. Equals, and then we're going to select the total here for the month, divided by the formula day, parentheses, EO month, parentheses, and then we're going to select the month here, comma 0, close parentheses on the EO month formula, and then close parentheses on the day formula, and hit enter. If Excel ever gives you a weird result here where it's telling you something is January-00, that just means that a cell is in date format when it shouldn't be. So let's just highlight both of these columns here and change them into comma format, and now we've got a much more sensible result here. Let's go ahead and fill this down. So here's what this formula is doing. The EO month function finds the last day of the month, and the day function tells you the number of the day you've chosen. If you choose the day number of the last day of the month, that will be the same as how many days that month has. Just remember that you need to enter a 0 as the second parameter to the EO month function. It's not worth explaining why. Now, the problem here is that the average for the current month is too low because we've only entered data for part of the month, but it's dividing by all the days in the month. Fixing this involves a formula that's a bit more complicated than others in the video, so if you don't care about this issue, feel free to skip ahead to the timecode on screen now. What we do to fix this is have Excel check if the current date is after the end of the month it's calculating for. If it is, it should divide by the total number of days in the month like it's doing now. If it isn't, it should divide by the number of days in the month that have passed through today. We can do that with an if statement. Let's start with the formula we already have here and edit it. So click on this cell, and then on the formula bar, click directly in the formula here after the slash. We're going to just type our changes directly into this formula that we already have. If, parentheses, and then we're going to select the cell with today's date and hit F4 to make that an absolute reference, is greater than EO month, parentheses, and then select the cell with the month, comma, 0, close parentheses, comma, and next comes what we want Excel to do if this condition is true, which is to use this formula we already have here. So we can just skip to the end here and add another comma, and now we tell Excel what we want to do if the condition is false, meaning that today's date is not after the end of the month we're looking at. In that case, we want Excel to divide by the number of days that have passed in the month so far, which we can find with day, open parentheses, and then we're going to select the cell with today's date and hit F4 to make that absolute, close parentheses on the day function, and then close parentheses on the if function. And now you see for January it hasn't changed, which is correct because the end of January is already passed. But when we fill this down, for February the number is updated. Now let's do some overall calculations on our summary page. What's our daily goal? That's going to be equals the overall goal divided by parentheses, the end date minus the start date plus 1, close parentheses. And how much should we have completed to date based on this daily goal? Let's make this column wider. That's the daily goal times parentheses today's date minus the start date plus 1, close parentheses. How much have we actually completed? That is equals sum, open parentheses, and then just select column C here with the miles, close parentheses. How much do we have left to go? That is just the goal amount minus actually completed. What's our actual daily average? That is the actual completed amount divided by parentheses today minus the start date plus 1, close parentheses. What's the difference between actual and target? That's the actually completed minus the target to date. And let's go ahead and put both of these columns into comma format. The difference between the daily average and goal is the actual daily average minus the daily goal. Projected outcome based on pace so far is the actual daily average times parenthesis end date minus start date plus 1 close parenthesis. Projected difference from goal is the projected outcome minus the target. And if you want to know the updated daily goal based on where you currently are, that's the amount to go divided by parenthesis end date minus start date. And this time we aren't adding a 1 because today's date has already been included in our other calculations. So close parenthesis. Finally, let's make this into a dashboard by adding some charts. So we're going to highlight the months and totals here and go to the Insert ribbon and select Recommended Charts. Then we're going to choose Clustered Column here. Okay. And now we've got this chart here. It was that simple. You can play around with the location and the size and do some other formatting if you want. And then highlight the months and hold down Control and then highlight the daily averages here. And again, go to Insert and Recommended Charts and choose a clustered column and OK. And now we've got a chart with the daily averages, which again, you can play around with the location and size and formatting if you want. And now you're done. You've created this goal tracker in this much time. You can do some formatting to make this look nicer if you'd like, but I'll leave that up to you. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and a huge thank you to my subscribers as I pass 1,500 subs on the day I'm writing the script for this video. Also, a quick update on my promise video on using Excel to make a dice mosaic. I need to finish my own dice mosaic before I can make that video, and it's almost done. So that video is coming soon, I promise. And remember to check out my Excel for Accounting course on LinkedIn Learning, which has over 34,000 downloads as of the time I'm making this video. Also check out rockstarexcel.com, where you can sign up for a newsletter for tips on using Excel to make your life easier, and book a free consultation to learn how we can save you time and money. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out some of my other videos so I can help make you an Excel rockstar.